But yeah, no, like, what else do you have as far as, like, like feckless liberalism or neoliberalism is concerned? You got some more good stuff?
Well, I wouldn't say this is feckless as much as it is kind of, I guess cowardice is one way of looking at it, but like another is just, I would say, a kind of a backpedaling of your whole principle. So, you know who Sean O'Brien is, right? President of the Teamsters Union.
Oh yeah, he gave speeches at both conventions or something, right? Yeah, or even
I think he wasn't. I'm trying to remember. In his defense, I don't think he was invited.
He gave a speech at the DNC. I think that he had at least.
No, it was the RNC. He gave a speech at. I don't think he was invited at the DNC, but he
really.
I remember he was at the RNC. Now his logic was to try to appeal to Republican officials, congresspeople, but I don't know much. I don't know how much of that went through.
Yeah, no, I could have that completely backwards. So what's he? Oh, he's expressing regret now, right?
Nah, you would think, but
or is he
to kind of? This is the type of mentality that Sean O'Brien was originally going in before the election last year. You remember he almost got in a fight with oh god, what was his name? Mark Wayne Mullen. You ever see that?
No, you almost had a fight.
Oh yeah, here I'll fight. Here. I happen to have it right here. I'm going to share it to you. Oh, it's great.
That's phenomenal.
Oh yeah, look at this. This is awesome.
How does he feel about what's been happening to the NLRB? Is he happy?
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about Mr. O'Brien himself, his behavior. As everybody knows, and it's here in the last time.
So this is how a lot of people got first introduced to Sean
appreciate your demeanor today. It's quite different. But after you left here, you got pretty excited about the keyboard. In fact, you tweeted at me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And let me read what the last one said. It said, greedy CEO who pretends like he's self-made. Sorry, I wish he was in the truck with me when I was building my...
So to be fair, he is not self-made. Mullen got his business from help from his dad. Kind of like how Elon inherited his wealth from his father. Like,
I think it's the same kind of like calculus he could perform. Anybody who says that they're like an alpha male, probably not an alpha male. Anybody who says that they're like a self, like that concept is not legitimate either.
Folks, I hate to break
anybody who says self-made, they're saying that because they're aware of the fact that they probably had some advantages, but they need to proliferate this narrative that they were self-made because they're aware of the fact that they had an unfair advantage. So,
folks, I hate to break it to you all, but there isn't really a rags to riches story in the American dream, because again, you have to be asleep to kind of believe that to be true. Like,
it's just gotten harder as time has gone on.
So he's apparently very butthurt about calling a spade here from O'Brien.
My plumbing company, myself and my wife was running the office because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. No, stop it.
Is that your solution every call?
No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold it. If we can, no, I have the mic. I'm sorry.
This is what he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. God knows the American people have enough contempt for Congress. Let's not.
I don't like thugs and bullies.
I don't like you because you just described yourself.
You're a butthead.
Hold it. You have the mic.
Hey, fuck your mom.
All right, let's do this because I did challenge you and I accepted your challenge, and you went quiet.
No, I didn't go quiet. You challenged me to a cage match, acting like a 12-year-old schoolyard bully.
Excuse me. Hold it. No, excuse me.
I will say exactly.
Senator Mullen, I have the mic. You have questions on any economic issues, anything that said, go for it. We're not here to talk about physical abuse.
You brought.
We're not
him
talking
in.
about. Of course, I
And
did.
let me show you his hearing because I want to expose this thug to who he is. And
Could you not point at me? That's disrespectful.
I don't care about respecting you at all. I
don't
respect.
respect you at all.
our friend
So-
needs a
hold
trigger
it.
warning
Hold it.
for every microaggression.
Mullen is.
You
I'm
don't
not
want to
sure
be
that
there.
it's
Like,
always
all
not
the
true.
way,
Please.
this is like,
Please.
I'll try to beat you up, but don't fucking point at me.
This is a, excuse me. This is a hearing to
Oh, what an
discuss
idiot.
economic issues. All right? If you have questions for Mr. O'Brien or anybody else on what he has said, go for it.
I mean-
But we're not here to talk about fights or anything else.
I'm quoting exactly what he said.
You can
and
say
this
what
is-
you want,
This is
but-
your witness
This
you
is
brought.
my
And let me.
witness.
I'm exposing him.
You can
as a
talk
person
anything you
who
want.
is. So in
but no fight-
2013,
Nope.
in 2013, O'Brien was suspended by the Teamsters for intimidating your own members. In 2014, you were part of what would you say, organizing the harassment, intimidation of the Top Shelf crew.
Chef, not chef.
Top Chef. Okay, and then and I think in the reports they said sexual, racist, and homophobic slurs and death threats. 14 tires were sliced, and 5 Teamsters were arrested. And you said, "Well, I had nothing to do with it." But however, in that same statement, you said, "But if I get called to testify, I'll plead the fifth." This is a witness you brought in here. In 2017, you were removed as lead negotiator by then President Hoffa for UPS for your actions. And then in 22, when this guy was elected, what he said after he got elected was he wanted to bring the mob mentality back to the Teamsters. This is your guy.
And you're obviously going to give him a chance to respond to your question.
Absolutely, because this is my question. Because you called me out. I didn't call you out.
Yeah, you did.
You said anytime, any place.
That's
what you
that.
said.
Let's get the record
Okay.
straight.
Ms. Hold it. No.
Hold on.
Senator Mullen, do you have a question for the witness?
Yeah. I
Okay,
think that's what I'm
let's
getting
hear
at.
it.
So, anytime, any place.
You know, meet me out
No,
back
that's not-
after the session.
April is a charity event.
No, that's not, no.
It's he,
No.
sir, he said it, and this is my
He is
time.
here to
You
tell-
can set
no.
parameters on what the questions can or cannot be asked, and I'll ask.
No,
you
you're not going to,
questions.
we're not going to be talking about
we
physical
understand.
confrontation.
Oh, this is about charity, for a union charity, because this is for firefighters. And
Do you have a question on his testimony?
April,
Grow up.
April
Will you
next
please
You
year.
have
grow
a
up? You're an
question on
embarrassment.
his, let's not
You
be.
said it.
You're an
You
embarrassment.
said
You're
it,
an
and I'm just
embarrassment.
simply answering it.
You
Senator
reached
Mullen,
out
go
to
hold it,
everybody.
hold it. Senator Mullen, you made some charges.
Charges.
Mr. O'Brien, do you want to respond to
Yeah, go
the
ahead,
question?
please.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality of it is, you
Accept
know,
my challenge,
Mr.
tough guy.
Mullen, tough guy.
Answer, hold it. Answer
tough
the
guy.
questions.
All right, you
What are
have
you gonna
one.
do next,
If I, he made a lot of statements, right? And his statements are fiction at best.
Fiction, I read them.
Can you
What?
answer the question, please?
And
I can't understand him, to be honest with you.
All right.
He rambles so much.
So he can't
What was
understand
it?
them. But he's also willing to say that his statements are fiction. Which one is it? You can't say that you can't understand him and also be like, I understood your statements enough to be able to claim that they were like false.
I'm not
I
gonna
actually
lie.
think-
I mean, yeah, accusation of sexism or whatever, but like, if I was ever in a hearing against Mullen like this, I would probably act the same way that O'Brien is doing right now, and I'm not fucking tolerating this fucking condescension from a Fox like self-made individual. Like this is. I think this is what kind of rubs him the wrong way about it, because like he so easily exposed him as kind of a hack job that he is.
This is super fucking funny, though.
Oh yeah, no, it was
like,
fucking
how
hilarious.
does
I
that
remember
happen?
watching this live. I'm like, holy fuck, man! C-SPAN sometimes gets really entertainment.
Question, actually.
You said I made a lot of statements.
No, but what's your question? I don't understand your question. Could you repeat it?
You said anytime, any place.
What's your question?
Accept the challenge.
What challenge?
You
God
said
damn,
anytime,
like,
any
what
place.
is
I'm
this, like,
accepting
Klingon
yours, so why don't you
Academy
What
or
challenge?
something?
What challenge are you talking
April
about?
30th. How about we do it for a charity at the?
It like reminds me like when
Tulsa,
Picard was like,
Oklahoma.
well, tester theory at any time or whatever.
Yeah.
And like I think I was like, I can take a
My
grasp.
question to you is, what are you doing after this session? I'll be in the parking lot. Will I see you there?
Jeez, man.
We're going to be
What was
talking
it,
about
Chuck?
physical confrontations here.
You want to fight me?
What'd you say about anytime, any place?
Let's have coffee, discuss our differences.
Oh, that's what you said.
Yeah,
Oh,
All right, well, let's
that's
sit and have
interesting,
coffee.
though.
let's do it.
I kind of despise
Funny
both
how
of
you're
them.
back.
Okay, I don't back on
Sorry.
anything.
You do.
You're the one. You're a 100.
Senator,
should be the most influential people in this country making changes.
Senator
You're
Hassan-
focused on.
Okay.
You're
Thank
focused
you.
on
Why did
debate
you-
that's not
why
even
did
relevant.
you keep texting
You're
me?
an
They got
embarrassment. You're an
Excuse me.
embarrassment.
They
Look,
went
That's what you
silence
are.
after
You're an
after
embarrassment to
my
the
day.
state of
This
Also,
hearing
Ben, I
just
have to
like
say,
the
it's
position of
weird.
the working class in America.
You
That's
brought
why
up-
we're
I meant coffee. Obviously, that's not what you meant.
Oh,
Actually,
man.
or backpedaling from that. But you know what this kind of reminds me of? Like, remember when Infrared and Dylan Burns were doing like a live debate, and
Which one?
Infrared for like like a long time was like I'll fight people, like I'll just tell me like where you're at and like I'll go there, and like
Isn't
Dylan
it,
Burns,
it wasn't like Dylan actually boxed though? And
yeah.
And then
like, but it was, like,
when Haas realized that, he backed down.
yeah, he's super backed down because like in a live setting, Haas is basically extremely disempowered because he's not physically intimidating, but like and like Dylan Burns is like, okay, we'll fight now. But it is stupid that this is like the content, or like this is like a demonstration of political legitimacy, is like making threats, responding to threats, being like in a Senate hearing. Oh man. What do you think, man? How's this go?
Well, that is the energy that Sean O'Brien brought in, and what the Teamsters, represented in terms of like a very coarse but strong-willed, defiant protection against for the working class. And I just want to share this now. I mean, this is the stuff that they were talking about, back in 2020, like, right to work, right? Yeah, so.
Over the past decade, some lawmakers have fought to curb the rights of workers, to join together to fight for fair wages, better benefits, and a voice in the workplace. Right to work, they say, is good for business. But the policy is a ruse. For workers, it is merely the right to work for less. This November, working Americans must exercise their own right to send these lawmakers packing. Go to www.teamstersvote.com and learn more about where the presidential candidates stand on union rights. Let's make sure 2020 is the year lawmakers support our vision for America.
So yeah, right to work, which is a very funny saying because it's not really a right to work. It's right to be fired. But of course, if you actually...
It's like naming something the Patriot Act. And then like being like, oh, but this is also going to like contradict what Jefferson said about like privacy being more important than security. Like as like one of like the most patriotic statements ever. But
it's basically like if they were honest about the messaging, it wouldn't obviously resonate with most people. That's why they have to use euphemisms like right to work.
It's just like make America great again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like all this the messaging tends to actually directly contradict what their actual goals are. So, and that's just but that's propagandization. People are susceptible to branding, and usually the branding of something resonates with people a little bit more strongly than the substance of the branding does. And that's what.
So we're going to focus on right to work because we're going to pivot just for a second over to Trump's labor secretary pick named Lori Chavez-DeRemer. Now, she is Republican, but she has... I have mixed feelings because, yes, she is pretty pro-labor for a Republican. She was for instance, she was a co-sponsor and a supporter for Biden's PRO Act, the Protecting the Right to Organize Act, essentially.
Okay.
But other than that, her policy, like her economic policies and stuff like that, are pretty milquetoast Republican in that sense. So Trump picked her for labor secretary. Now we're bringing Bernie back in here because it was during this hearing where right to work was brought up again. and I need to remind you that she was a supporter of the PRO Act, which curtails right to work in the country. If I can freaking pull it up. Wait, I'm sorry. Oh God. All right, here. Blah. Okay. So.
The reality is that in America today, labor unions have the support of some 70% of the American people. You know why? Because people understand that the big corporations and their bosses have all the power. People understand that CEOs make 300 times more than their workers. And people say, you know what, the only way we're going to get decent wages and benefits is when we organize. Millions of people want to join unions.
Senator Paul.
But they can't join unions. You know why? Because corporations day after day operate in illegal ways. They break the law. They say to somebody, you were late 3 years ago. You're a pro-union. You were late 3 years. You're fired. We're going to take you into a captive audience, and for hour after hour, we're going to tell you how bad unions are. You want to join a union? Fine. You vote for a union. We're moving the plant to China. All of that stuff happens to be illegal. All of that stuff happens to be done every single day by corporate America. So let me get back to the original question. PRO Act is designed to prevent illegal behavior on the part of corporate America, on the part of employers, so that workers can make a free choice. Do you support the PRO Act?
I support the American worker.
Okay, I don't mean to be rude.
No,
we
you're
don't
not
have
rude.
a lot of time.
I
I'm
understand.
gathering that you no longer support the PRO Act, is what I hear. That you support the American worker. That's what everybody here will say.
So I accidentally played the wrong clip, but that is part of what I was going to say. This is the actual clip that I wanted to show, because it was actually Rand Paul, of all people, is pushing a right-to-work law in America. So, and this is the reaction that we got here.
Senator Paul. Welcome. I
Thank
enjoyed our
you.
meeting in our office, and I know you're aware of this, but about half the country has right-to-work laws. 26 states have them. When you compare right-to-work states with non-right-to-work states, you see that the right-to-work states have double the employment growth. If you look at manufacturing jobs, they have 5 times the manufacturing job
what's up,
growth.
Jet?
If you look at disposable income in the right-to-work states, about $3,000 more per individual for disposable income in the right-to-work states. The PRO Act wasn't just about organizing or enabling unions to organize, which they already have the right to do. The PRO Act was about overturning right-to-work laws in 26 states, half of the country. Most of these states would argue that this would be a horrendous invasion of their prerogatives. The chairman asked you, and then the ranking member asked you, do you still support the PRO Act? The reason we want to know is this is a tremendous sort of invasion of the state's rights to decide these. This would be overturning the right-to-work laws in half of the country.
Which is a good thing.
Do you still support the PRO Act, or don't you support the PRO Act?
Thank you, Senator Paul, and I appreciated our meeting as well. I thought it was quite what you shared with me is how important it is to you and your state, and I heard that from many members. The right to work is a fundamental tenet of labor laws, where states have a right to choose if they want to be a right-to-work state, and that should be protected.
PRO Act would have overturned that.
Yes.
I need to remind everybody. Right to work means the right to be fired for the most minimal fucking thing.
Here's the other thing. So can we pause this for a second?
Yeah.
But we're already paused.
Yeah, we're paused. Yeah.
All right. So let's keep in mind the federal minimum wage in the United States is $7.25 per hour. That's the federal minimum wage.
Yeah.
Let's take into consideration countries that have 90% unionization or higher in their respective countries. A lot of these countries don't have a minimum wage. And why is that? Because a lot of jobs that are interchangeable with minimum wage jobs in those countries make at least $21 an hour for those jobs. So if you're working at Burger King in Denmark, and I think the last time I looked this up was like in 2019, so the wage is probably higher. The minimum wage working at Burger King in Denmark was $21 an hour. And Rand Paul, who's a shadow of his father, who was already libertarian enough, which is a social affliction, it's a political affliction, but he's far less principled and far less, politically efficacious than Ron Paul even was, is basically saying, or what he's basically accepting, federal minimum wage, literally a third of what unionization wages are like in countries that have higher unionization rates.
Mm-hmm.
The unionization rate in this country is still very low. Countries with higher unionization rates literally overperform wages by a multiplicity of 3 times. So he might have some data where some, right to work states have a marginally higher rate of income. But if we look at countries that have adopted substantially higher rates of unionization, up in the 90 percentile range, those countries overperform by about 3 times as much for their lowest income earners. So it's only when you compare this country's very impotent iteration of unionization against right to work states that right to work states seem to be more favorable. But when you compare right to work states to countries that have high unionization rates, those higher unionization rate countries deliver far more advantageous incomes to its workers.
Here's anybody who's anti-union that needs to comprehend with these general facts. People in union jobs have higher wages and better benefits than people in non-union jobs in the same industry. Okay, that's just a fact. Now, this is what right to work states do in terms of worker rights. Okay, they have lower wages and benefits. Workers have lower wages and benefits. Union power is weakened and curtailed by controlling union membership dues and financial stability, making it harder for unions to finance for worker rights. There's increased employer power, which means there's increased options and rights for exploitation by those employers against the workers. That means that there's potential for more unsafe working conditions and that will not be challenged effectively. And then there's also just the negative impact on communities because people who are in union jobs who make more money actually have the ability to spend more within their communities. You cannot be, and then this is what makes me kind of lose all faith in this representative right here, because you cannot be pro-worker and support right to work. It's incompatible. And her trying to thread this line is impossible based on the facts. So I hope people just understand that, but we'll continue here.
Thank you, Senator. I signed on to the PRO Act because I was representing Oregon's 5th District, but I also signed on to the PRO Act because I wanted to be at that table and have those conversations. But I fully, fairly support states who want to protect their right to work. I have said that to every senator that I have visited.
You no longer support the aspect of the PRO Act that would have overturned state right to work laws.
Yeah, there were so many parts.
That's a yes?
Yes. Yes, sir.
God, I hate it. So another thing that a lot of these countries with high unionization rates are able to accomplish, and especially in the case of Norway, which to me, if somebody's going to make a defense of capitalism, they should defer to the Scandinavian countries because they've been able to implement the most favorable iteration of capitalism that's ever existed, which I still disagree with. But it's at the beginning of almost every business year, the 4 largest union conglomerates convene and they have a negotiating situation with all the various industries that represent the majority of the workforce. And they hash out an agreement, a wage agreement that applies sector-wide. So if you're in the fast food industry, these union conglomerates negotiate on the behalf of the workers of those of that industry, and they set industry terms. So that's not every individual corporation or every individual business has to fight for its wage, for its living wage and stuff like that. So it just, and even I think there are examples Italy and Spain where they don't have high unionization rates, but they do have high representation in the form of collective bargaining, and those those features of collective bargaining are still able to establish sector-wide agreements that set the wage for that entire industry or like that entire sector. So like anyone who's trying to like pretty much like peddle this narrative that like, like collective bargaining does not result in like, better incomes for workers is just being like anti-factual. they're being hostile to the information that's both been established like domestically and geopolitically.
Yeah. I don't think there can be any honest Republican Secretary of Labor. In the sense that
not in this country, especially.
Only in the sense that the Department of Labor is used for the benefit of every American business in this country, and not like this is why I'm bummed that Kamala did not win, because we needed the PRO Act to really strengthen our union representation in this country, and the PRO Act was a good start to that, just by eliminating right to work and making it easier for, employees to form unions and strengthening their collective bargaining power, as well as preventing any like intimidation by businesses and, giving out harsher penalties if they're caught doing it. Like, this is just a fucking punch in the gut to me. But
there were some like surprisingly positive developments when it came to like her economic platform. She didn't have the time to like actually like focus and like triangulate on those things. It's like even like the thing where it was like, small businesses are going to get like automatically receive like a pretty like substantial loan from the government. It's like, oh shit. Yeah. So we're going to like mitigate like the cost benefit dynamic for starting a small business, or like, like new homeowners are going to like receive a loan as well. It's like, oh shit. Like, people in my generation could like actually foreseeably like own a house, which like under like the current like economic environment, nobody I know is like planning to own a home.
Right.
But like, no,
I'm certainly not.
You actually had those provisions in place. They weren't her policy proposals weren't activating enough, but they were more progressive than like what we'd become accustomed to from like, like Biden campaigns and like Obama campaigns.
Yeah.
But like receiving a tax credit just doesn't hit as hard as like somebody like Bernie, who's like, oh, you want fucking healthcare? Here's your healthcare. You want free tuition at public college? Here's your fucking free tuition at public college.
Taxing the rich has better sounding resonance than a tax break.
But it's also like not just like merely like a narrative or like a narrative or like performative high ground. Like those are obviously like policies that have like real substantive like material benefits to like the population. So they just weren't willing to go like far enough with those things.
And what is organized labor's response to that? Well, let's head back to Sean O'Brien now, and the different tune that he's singing ever since 2024 and when he spoke at the RNC. So this is his response to the labor secretary and all that right to work stuff.
There's been a lot of talk that if there is an issue with right to work, it should be done on a state level, not on a national level. And look, that's the beauty of having conversations with people from the other side, where you can collaborate and actually find out what works for that state, what doesn't work for it, but more importantly, what's going to work for the American worker. So there's been a lot of talk.
You got to really shut up about like this like whole narrative about like we just have to have conversations. There is a crisis of legitimacy when it comes to these conversations. It's like leftists, when it comes to like material needs, are having a conversation where it's like 2 + 2 = 4. Conservatives are having a conversation where they're saying like 2 + 2 = 6.
Yeah.
All these, these pearl clutching like centrists are saying like, why don't we just say that 2 + 2 = 5? No, I'm sorry. That's still fucking wrong. You don't have that conversation. You don't like land on that outcome. The conversation needs to be what is fucking factually going to materially benefit the majority of the population, and you stand by that. You don't listen to both sides and like arrive at like some wrong answer that's just like conveniently in the center. The center isn't always what's right. You have to fight for what's right, no matter how many people it disagrees with. Which is what's so frustrating about these people who are like, oh, we have to have like discussions about these things. We need to be past the point of discussions. We have to be representing and like really stand by things that we know to be provable, even if they negatively activate the people who are oppositional to those things. Fuck their opposition to it, stand by it anyway, and be muscular in your opposition to their opposition. Just like win. That's what it comes down to.
I'm trying to understand O'Brien's take. I don't know if he's triangulating to help save whatever gains the Teamsters have made in the past 4 years. But I don't think it's going to be effective because, like, at the end of the day, like the main class of the Republican Party, you know, the business owners and the pro-business advocates, they don't care about labor rights. They think it's a detriment to their fucking survival, and they will impede, if not obliterate, any rights to work to the workers if it protects their bottom line. And I don't think he's getting it. And to add insult to injury to that, you remember you remember the little feud between Mullen and O'Brien, you know, that was like 2 years ago. Well, they're singing a different tune now. So this is them now.
Hey guys, we're here with a unique coalition. We got Lori and my friend Sean. Now, the last time we were here, I think Sean and I kind of had our differences, but now we've made up, and actually we got a really good friendship. In fact, I'd almost say relationship. If it was a relationship, I'd be the man of the relationship, though, just to make sure.
Can we pause it for a second?
Yeah.
This reminds me so much of like Mika and Joe Scarborough, or like what's that guy's name now? Where it's like we've been calling Donald Trump a fascist for the past 4 years, but now that Donald Trump is
after they elected, they showed their bellies. They went to him to personally apologize, like, okay, we won't be critical.
Yeah, they kissed
sorry.
the ring. It's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know, we're kind of like going to like describe our relationship a little bit differently, and we're going to be like way more capitulatory and like way more oppositional, and it's kind of cool. Let's just kind of like make it like, you know, some kind of like, we'll advertise it as some kind of like really insidious warm embrace.
Yeah. It's also similar to like what Cenk and Anna from the Young Turks were kind of doing right now too.
Anna's she's so hard. It's been so disappointing.
Well, hold on. We might get something from this. Don't be too critical at first.
That's debatable. I mean, I've never had a man tell me to stamp my butt up. You know what I mean? But the reality is this is important, and this is what it's all about, collaborating, forming friendships for the right direction of this country. And we believe that Lori Chavez-DeRemer should be confirmed. And
literally the right direction, not the correct
step. President Trump.
But the right
President Trump reached out to Sean and I and said, hey, we need to talk. You guys got more in common than you have differences, but that's a unique coalition that the president has brought together. We've seen it with Tulsi, we've seen it with Bobby, and now we're seeing it with Lori. So thank you guys for listening to us. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. We're still fighting for this country.
I hate this. So you know what kind of like, you know, like agreement people usually arrive at, where they're like, we have more in common than like we have differences. That's when people agree to things like, I like good things and I dislike bad things. Like values descriptors that like nobody could disagree with. It's like, you know, I think merit should be rewarded. It's like, I also think merit should be rewarded. But of course, like when you get to like what the policy implementation of that would look like or what that would resemble, it'd be like, oh, I think we should get rid of DEI. And it's like, you know, that when like employers are left to their own devices, even for people who have like better like resumes, if they have an African-American sounding name, they don't get hired in favor of like the white sounding guy who like actually has a worse resume. It's like, of course, both sides are going to like inherit like the meritocratic position. That might like be able to like offer the illusion that we agree on a lot of things. But of course, the left's interpretation of what's like a solution tends to be a little bit more like credible than the right's interpretation of like the same solution. So I hate this fucking like centrist.
Yeah, I don't know what Sean O'Brien's like long game in this is, but nor do I really have much faith in it, to be honest with you. But instead of, you know, supporting Sean O'Brien, be more of a Sean Fain, president of the UAW, United Automobile Workers, who's still pushing for a 2028 general strike. So,
oh, nice. Okay,
yeah,
good.
So just keep that in mind. There are other Seans out there. There are better Seans out there. But that Sean spelled SHAWN, and the Sean O'Brien's spelled like Sheen.
Yeah, the most important distinguishing factor.
All right. How much time do we got?